There are 26 desks in that classroom and 27 names on the roster, and the 27th has been on every roster I have been handed for 4 years. I substitute across the whole district, 12 schools, hundreds of classrooms. I have been doing it since my divorce, because it is work you can take on a day's notice and nobody expects you to stay. The office hands you a folder in the morning. Lesson plan, fire route, roster. You call the roll. That is how you start. The first time I noticed it, I was covering 4th grade at Harlow Elementary. I called the names in order, and the kids answered the way kids do, half of them already bored, and then I read out a name that no one answered to. Simon Pell. I said it twice. 26 faces looked back at me with the specific blankness of children who genuinely do not recognize a word. So I marked him absent and moved on, and I did not think about it again until 3 weeks later at a different school 11 miles away, 7th grade. Simon Pell. Same spelling. Marked at the bottom of the roster in the same printed font as the rest. I asked the office about it at lunch. The secretary looked at the roster in my hand and told me, pleasantly and with total confidence, that there was no such name on it. She pointed at the sheet and read me the 26 names, and her finger passed over the 27th line without stopping, the way your eye passes over a word you are not looking for. That was when it stopped being a clerical error. I have kept every roster since. For years. 219 of them. Simon Pell is on all of them. Grade school, middle school, 1 high school chemistry class, 1 adult ESL night course I covered as a favor. Always the last name on the list, always in the same font as the others, always invisible to anyone I show it to. I stopped showing people after the first year. I learned some rules. I did not want to learn them, but 4 years is a long time and I am an orderly person. The first rule is that if you do not call his name, the day is normal. Nothing happens. You teach, you go home. The second rule is that if you do call it, the room changes. Not dramatically. The temperature drops enough that a few kids will pull their sleeves down. The sound goes wrong, flattens out like the walls got closer. And every child in that room will turn and look at the same empty desk. Not the one nearest them. The same one all together in the same second. And then it passes and they do not remember doing it. I know that last part because I asked once. I asked a whole 5th grade class why they had all just looked at the window row, and 26 children told me with perfect honesty that they had not. The third rule is the one I found out in November, and it is the reason I am writing any of this down. Twice in 4 years, the roster has had 28 names. The first time was at Ridgeway Middle, and the 28th name was a girl in that class, a real girl who was sitting 8 feet from me. I did not call it. Something in me, some animal part below thinking, would not let my mouth make the sound. I skipped it, and my hands shook for the rest of the period, and I could not have told you why. She transferred out of district that spring. She is fine. I checked. The second time was 6 days ago. 3rd grade, a school I like, a good class. 28 names. And the 28th was a boy in the 2nd row with a dinosaur on his shirt who had spent the whole morning telling me about his dog. And I stood at the front of that room with the roster in my hand and I understood, finally and completely, what I have actually been doing for 4 years. I have been reading a list to something that cannot read it itself. That is the whole job. That is why it is on every roster, in every school, in a font that only I can see. It does not need to be in the room. It needs to be called into it. So I did not read the last name. I read 27 and I stopped, and I put the sheet face down on the desk, and I taught them about the water cycle with my heart going like a bird in my chest. And at the end of the day, I walked that roster out to my car and I burned it in a coffee can in my driveway like a lunatic. I have turned down every job since. 6 days. The phone rings at 6 in the morning and I let it ring. But here is the thing I did not think about until last night, and it is the reason I have not slept. There are other substitutes. There are dozens of us in this district, and every one of them gets handed a folder in the morning. Lesson plan, fire route, roster. And they do not know. They will read that list straight down to the bottom the way you are supposed to, in a clear voice, the way they teach you, so the children can hear their names. And somewhere in this district tomorrow morning, a room is going to get colder, and 26 kids are going to turn and look at the same empty desk. And I am going to be sitting in my kitchen, not answering my phone, knowing exactly which name got called.